Hey guys, in today's videos we will find out if our beloved family were narcissists or not. Number 1 is mocking and teasing. Narcissistic parents often use mockery and teasing as a tool to control and manipulate their children. These tactics can be emotionally damaging, undermining the child's self-esteem and hindering their emotional development. One common way narcissistic parents use mockery is by belittling their children's feelings and experiences. When a child expresses sadness, fear, or disappointment, the narcissistic parent may dismiss their emotions as irrational or exaggerated. They may use sarcasm or ridicule to minimize the child's feelings, making them feel invalidated and ashamed. Another tactic is to tease the child about their physical appearance, intelligence, or personality traits. These hurtful comments can erode the child's self-confidence and lead to feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. The narcissistic parent may justify their behavior by claiming it is just a joke, but the impact on the child can be profound and long-lasting. Narcissistic parents may also use mockery to compare their children to others, often highlighting the child's perceived shortcomings. They may compare their child's grades, athletic abilities, or social skills to those of siblings, cousins, or other children, emphasizing the child's perceived failures. This constant comparison can foster feelings of inferiority and resentment. Number 2 is conditional love. Narcissistic parents often use conditional love as a tool to control and manipulate their children. This means that their love and affection are contingent upon the child meeting their expectations and fulfilling their needs. Such a dynamic can have profound and lasting negative effects on a child's emotional and psychological development. One way narcissistic parents demonstrate conditional love is by withholding affection and approval when the child does not meet their standards. They may ignore or criticize the child, or even withdraw love entirely. This can leave the child feeling anxious, insecure, and constantly striving to please their parent. Another tactic is to use praise and positive reinforcement selectively. The child may only receive validation and approval when they achieve something significant or conform to the parent's expectations. This can create a sense of dependency and a fear of failure as the child becomes reliant on external validation. Narcissistic parents may also use guilt and shame to manipulate their children. They may guilt-trip the child into doing what they want, or shame them for not meeting their expectations. This can damage the child's self-esteem and leave them feeling responsible for the parent's happiness. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may use their children as an extension of themselves, projecting their own desires and ambitions onto them. The child's individuality and autonomy are often suppressed, as they are expected to conform to the parent's idealized image. This can lead to feelings of resentment and a loss of identity. The long-term consequences of growing up with conditional love can be significant. Children may struggle with low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. They may have difficulty forming healthy relationships and may be prone to codependency. It is important to recognize the harmful impact of conditional love and seek support if you or someone you know is affected by narcissistic parental abuse. If you or someone you know is struggling with the effects of narcissistic parental abuse, it is important to seek professional help. Therapy can provide a safe space to process emotions, develop coping strategies, and work towards healing. There are also support groups available for individuals who have experienced narcissistic abuse, offering a sense of community and understanding. Number 3 is ruling by fear and domination. Narcissistic parents often employ a strategy of domination and fear to control their children. This toxic dynamic can have severe and long-lasting consequences for the child's emotional and psychological well-being. One common tactic used by narcissistic parents is the use of intimidation, They may use their size, authority, or emotional manipulation to frighten their children into submission. This can create a constant state of fear and anxiety as the child walks on eggshells, always anticipating the next outburst or criticism. Another way narcissistic parents exert control is through verbal abuse. They may use hurtful insults, belittling remarks, or public humiliation to shame and degrade their children. This can damage the child's self-esteem and leave them feeling worthless and inadequate. Narcissistic parents may also use gaslighting to manipulate their children's perception of reality. They may deny the child's experiences, twist the truth, or blame the child for their own negative behavior. This can confuse and disorient the child, making it difficult for them to trust their own judgment. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may use threats and punishments to enforce their control. They may withhold love and affection, or threaten to take away privileges or possessions. This can create a climate of fear and resentment as the child feels trapped and powerless. The long-term effects of growing up with narcissistic parents who rule by domination and fear can be devastating. Children may struggle with low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, and difficulty forming healthy relationships. They may also develop unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance abuse or self-harm. Number 4 is lack of compassion. Narcissistic parents often demonstrate a profound lack of compassion and concern for their children's emotional and psychological well-being. This can have devastating consequences, leaving the child feeling isolated, undervalued, and emotionally scarred. One of the most common ways narcissistic parents exhibit a lack of compassion is by dismissing or invalidating their children's feelings. When a child expresses sadness, anger, or fear, the narcissistic parent may respond with indifference, criticism, or outright denial of the child's emotions. This can leave the child feeling unheard, misunderstood, and alone. Another harmful behavior is the narcissistic parent's tendency to prioritize their own needs and desires over those of their children. They may neglect their children's basic needs, such as food, shelter, or emotional support, in favor of pursuing their own goals or indulging in their own pleasures. This can lead to feelings of abandonment and neglect in the child. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may use their children as emotional dumping grounds, projecting their own insecurities and frustrations onto them. This can be particularly damaging as the child is forced to bear the burden of the parent's emotional turmoil. The child may feel responsible for the parent's happiness, leading to a distorted sense of self-worth and a compromised ability to form healthy relationships. Additionally, narcissistic parents may be dismissive of their children's accomplishments and achievements. They may downplay their successes or criticize their efforts, leaving the child feeling undervalued and discouraged. This can hinder the child's motivation and self-esteem, making it difficult for them to reach their full potential. Number 5 is codependent. While narcissism and codependency may seem contradictory, they often coexist in a complex and harmful dynamic. Narcissistic parents can exhibit codependent behaviors, particularly in their relationships with their children. This codependent dynamic can further exacerbate the negative impact of narcissistic parenting. One way narcissistic parents can exhibit codependency is by becoming overly involved in their children's lives. They may micromanage their children's activities, friendships, and decisions, stifling their autonomy and independence. This excessive involvement can hinder the child's development of self-reliance and problem-solving skills. Another manifestation of codependency is the narcissistic parent's need for validation and admiration from their children. They may seek constant praise and approval, and may become overly sensitive to criticism or perceived slights. This can create a toxic dynamic where the child feels pressured to meet the parent's emotional needs, rather than focusing on their own well-being. Additionally, narcissistic parents may struggle with setting healthy boundaries with their children. They may blur the lines between parent and child, seeking emotional intimacy and support that should be reserved for adult relationships. This can lead to feelings of confusion and exploitation for the child. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may use their children as a source of self-worth and identity. They may live vicariously through their children's achievements, or use them to maintain their own social status. This can put immense pressure on the child, as they are expected to fulfill their parents' unmet desires and aspirations. The codependent nature of narcissistic parents can further complicate the dynamics of the parent-child relationship, making it difficult for the child to establish healthy boundaries, develop a strong sense of self, and form fulfilling relationships with others. It is crucial to recognize the harmful impact of codependency in narcissistic parenting and seek support to break free from this toxic cycle. Number 6 is jealousy. Narcissistic parents often harbor feelings of jealousy towards their children, viewing them as potential rivals for attention, admiration, and love. This jealousy can manifest in various ways, often subtly but deeply impacting the child's emotional well-being. One common manifestation of parental jealousy is the devaluation of the child's accomplishments. When a child excels in academics, sports, or other areas, the narcissistic parent may downplay their achievements or dismiss them as insignificant. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy and a lack of self-worth in the child. Another way narcissistic parents may express jealousy is through excessive criticism. They may nitpick at the child's appearance, behavior, or choices, constantly finding fault and pointing out their flaws. This constant criticism can erode the child's self-esteem and leave them feeling insecure and anxious. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may sabotage their children's successes, either overtly or subtly. They may undermine their efforts, spread rumors, or create obstacles to prevent them from achieving their goals. This can leave the child feeling betrayed and confused, as they struggle to understand why their parents would intentionally harm them. In some cases, narcissistic parents may even compete with their children, seeking to outshine them in various aspects of life. They may compare themselves to their children, highlighting their own perceived superiority and minimizing the child's accomplishments. This can create a toxic dynamic of rivalry and resentment. The long-term consequences of parental jealousy can be severe. Children may struggle with low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, and difficulty forming healthy relationships. They may also develop unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance abuse or self-harm. It is crucial to recognize the signs of parental jealousy and seek help if you or someone you know is affected by this harmful behavior. Number 7 is not taking accountability. Narcissistic parents often avoid taking responsibility for their mistakes or shortcomings. Instead, they may blame others, deny their actions, or minimize the impact of their behavior. This lack of accountability can have significant negative consequences for their children. One common tactic used by narcissistic parents is to blame others for their problems. They may shift the blame onto their children, their spouse, or external circumstances, avoiding any personal responsibility. This can leave the child feeling confused, guilty, and unfairly targeted. Another way narcissistic parents avoid accountability is by denying their actions or minimizing their impact. They may claim to have forgotten, exaggerate their contributions, or downplay the severity of their mistakes. This can create a distorted sense of reality for the child, as they are forced to question their own perception of events. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may gaslight their children, manipulating their perception of reality to maintain control. They may deny the child's experiences, twist the truth, or accuse them of being overly sensitive or imagining things. This can leave the child feeling confused, isolated, and unsure of what is real. Number 8 is live through the child. Narcissistic parents often live vicariously through their children, projecting their own unfulfilled dreams and aspirations onto them. This can have a profound and negative impact on the child's development and well-being. One common way narcissistic parents live through their children is by pushing them to excel in specific areas, such as academics or sports. They may enroll their children in numerous extracurricular activities, disregarding the child's own interests and preferences. This can create immense pressure and stress, as the child feels obligated to meet their parents' expectations. Another manifestation of this behavior is the narcissistic parent's tendency to compare their child to others, particularly to siblings or other children they perceive as superior. This constant comparison can damage the child's self-esteem and lead to feelings of inadequacy and resentment. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may use their children to maintain their own social status. They may boast about their child's achievements to others, or use them as a means of gaining attention and admiration. This can create a sense of pressure and obligation for the child, as they feel responsible for their parents' social standing. Additionally, narcissistic parents may discourage their children from pursuing their own passions and interests if they do not align with the parents' own dreams and ambitions. They may dismiss the child's aspirations as unrealistic or unimportant, or actively discourage them from pursuing them. This can lead to feelings of frustration, disappointment, and a sense of lost potential. Number 9 is grandiosity. Narcissistic parents often impose their grandiose fantasies onto their children, shaping their identities and aspirations to align with their own idealized visions. This can have profound and long-lasting consequences for the child's self-esteem, autonomy, and overall well-being. One common way narcissistic parents project their fantasies onto their children is by fostering unrealistic expectations. They may push their children to excel in specific areas, such as academics or sports, without considering the child's natural abilities or interests. This can lead to immense pressure and stress, as the child constantly strives to meet the parents' idealized image of them. Narcissistic parents may also encourage their children to adopt their own grandiose beliefs about themselves. They may instill a sense of entitlement, believing that their child is destined for greatness and should be treated with special privileges. This can hinder the child's development of empathy and humility, as they may struggle to relate to others who do not share their perceived superiority. Furthermore, narcissistic parents may use their children to fulfill their own unfulfilled dreams and desires. They may push their children into careers or hobbies that they themselves were unable to pursue, neglecting the child's own aspirations and passions. This can lead to resentment and a sense of being controlled, as the child feels trapped in a life that was not their own choice. Number 10 is neglect. Narcissistic parents, driven by an inflated sense of self-importance and a lack of empathy, can unintentionally inflict significant neglect on their children. This neglect, often subtle yet deeply damaging, can have long-lasting emotional and psychological consequences. One common form of neglect by narcissistic parents is emotional neglect. These parents are often emotionally unavailable, failing to provide the love, support, and validation that children need to thrive. They may dismiss their children's feelings, belittle their accomplishments, or withhold affection as a form of punishment. This emotional deprivation can leave children feeling isolated, insecure, and unworthy of love. Another way narcissistic parents neglect their children is through a lack of attention and prioritization. They may be overly focused on their own needs and desires, neglecting their children's emotional and physical well-being. This can manifest in various ways, such as being absent during important life events, failing to provide basic necessities, or neglecting to address their children's emotional needs. Narcissistic parents may also engage in a form of neglect known as emotional overinvolvement. While this may seem counterintuitive to neglect, it can be equally harmful. These parents often project their own insecurities and desires onto their children, expecting them to fulfill their unmet needs. This can stifle children's individuality and autonomy, leaving them feeling pressured to live up to their parents' expectations rather than pursuing their own passions and goals. Number 11 is superficial image. Narcissistic parents often construct a carefully curated image of themselves, projecting an aura of success, perfection, and popularity. This facade serves as a shield, masking their insecurities and need for validation. They may boast about their achievements, material possessions, or social status, seeking admiration and envy from others. However, this outward display of confidence often belies a fragile ego and a deep-seated fear of inadequacy. Behind the polished exterior lies a complex web of manipulation and control. Narcissistic parents may use their children as extensions of themselves, projecting their own unfulfilled dreams and desires onto them. They may also engage in gaslighting, constantly undermining their children's self-esteem and convincing them that their perceptions are flawed. This can lead to a cycle of self-doubt and confusion, as the children struggle to differentiate between their own feelings and the distorted reality imposed upon them. The superficial image cultivated by narcissistic parents can also have a profound impact on their children's relationships with others. Growing up in an environment where love and attention are conditional, children of narcissistic parents may develop unhealthy patterns of seeking validation and approval. They may become people pleasers, constantly striving to meet the expectations of others while neglecting their own needs. This can lead to difficulties in forming genuine and authentic connections, as they may fear rejection or abandonment. Furthermore, the pursuit of perfectionism, often instilled by narcissistic parents, can take a toll on their children's mental and emotional well-being. Constantly striving to meet unrealistic standards can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and even depression. Children may feel overwhelmed by the pressure to excel in all areas of their lives, neglecting their own interests and passions. This can hinder their personal growth and limit their potential. It is important to remember that the superficial image projected by narcissistic parents is a facade. Beneath the polished exterior lies a fragile ego and a deep-seated need for control. By understanding the underlying motivations behind their behavior, individuals can begin to break free from the cycle of manipulation and dysfunction. Seeking support from therapists or counselors can also be beneficial, as they can provide guidance and tools for building healthy relationships and developing a strong sense of self. Number 12 is marginalization. Narcissistic parents often create environments where their children's needs and feelings are consistently overlooked or dismissed. This marginalization can have profound and long-lasting effects on a child's self-esteem, emotional well-being, and overall development. One common tactic used by narcissistic parents is to invalidate their children's experiences. When a child expresses their feelings or concerns, the parent may downplay or deny their emotions, telling them they are too sensitive or overreacting. This constant invalidation can lead children to doubt their own perceptions and feelings, making it difficult for them to trust their instincts and build healthy relationships. Another way narcissistic parents marginalize their children is by placing their own needs and desires above their children's. This can manifest in various ways, such as prioritizing their own social life, career, or hobbies over spending quality time with their children. Children may feel neglected, unimportant, and unworthy of their parents' attention and love. Narcissistic parents often use guilt and manipulation to control their children's behavior. They may make their children feel responsible for their happiness or well-being, leading to feelings of anxiety, stress, and resentment. This can also create a dynamic where the child constantly walks on eggshells, afraid of making mistakes or upsetting their parent. The long-term effects of parental marginalization can be significant. Children may struggle with low self-esteem, difficulty forming healthy relationships, and issues with trust and intimacy. They may also develop unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance abuse or self-harm, to deal with the emotional pain caused by their parents' neglect and abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, you have watched the video, and if you think your parents have at least 2 signs out of the 12, do yourself a solid and start considering self-diagnosing yourself before you hurt innocent people around you. Many people are now married to those people not knowing what they actually are dealing with. They are suffering and are dead in their 30s but waiting for their burial in their 70s. Please consider seeing a professional and find out your condition before you ended up becoming the cause for someone's suicide. Have yourself a great day, guys.